Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to answer which stock is the better dividend stock to buy. Is it Lowe's or is it Visa? To answer that question, I'm going to look at each company's most recent quarterly earnings results. I'm also going to look at their dividend yield. I'm going to look at their long-term operating profit margin. And finally, I'm going to look at the valuation. After I've looked at all of those things, I'm going to come up with the answer, which one is the better dividend stock to buy. So let's get right into it, starting with Lowe's most recent quarterly results, which saw its revenue of $22.4 billion fall from $23.7 billion in the same quarter the prior year. Of course, investors were expecting Lowe's revenue to decrease year over year for several quarters now as economies reopened. Lowe's was one of the prime beneficiaries of the coronavirus pandemic as people spending time at home took on home improvement projects with never before seen enthusiasm. Earnings per share, though, still increased for Lowe's in its most recent quarter to $3.77. That was up from a $3.51 earnings per share in the same quarter the prior year as the company's management was able to anticipate the slowdown. Overall, Lowe's management has done an excellent job both during and after the pandemic, something I couldn't say for very many companies that I follow. Now let's look at Visa, which saw its revenue increase by 11% to $8 billion and earnings per share rise to $2.03. This was up 20% from the same quarter last year. Remember, Visa earns money by taking a percentage of all of the transactions that happen using a Visa card. And since inflation has been rising, that's been a benefit for Visa because if you were previously spending $100 for your weekly groceries, you're now spending maybe $110 for your weekly groceries, and that's just that much extra that Visa gets a percentage from because of the transaction value has increased. So owning Visa stock is a little bit like having a hedge against inflation, a moderate hedge, I'll admit, but still a hedge against inflation, because if inflation persists, then Visa's revenues will increase and thereby giving you some inflation protection in your portfolio. Now let's look at their yield, which in its most recent update, Lowe's boasted a dividend yield of 2%, while Visa boasts a dividend yield of 0.77%. Now, I will caution not to take too much from the dividend yield. Remember, when you invest in dividend stocks, you get two types of return. You get the dividend yield, plus you get the stock price return. If the stock price rises and the dividend yield is lower than Lowe's, but the stock price rises more than Lowe's stock price rises, then you will get an overall better return than just the dividend yield. So pay attention not just to the dividend yield, but also the prospects for the stock prices to increase over time. Now, the next thing to look at is the operating profit margin, and I've went back 10 years and I love to show this chart for Visa. It's one of the most profitable companies in the world. You will rarely see a company with an operating profit margin of 66.88%. You will rarely see this figure. In fact, you'll rarely see an operating profit margin north of 45%. So the fact that Visa generates these types of profits is incredible. In fact, this is one of the reasons Visa has been one of my favorite stocks for a very long time. Lowe's, meanwhile, boasts a respectable operating profit margin of 10.6%, but nowhere near the incredible profit margins of Visa. And that just goes to highlight how profitable Visa's business really is. And finally, let's look at valuation. Looking at the forward price to earnings ratio, Visa is trading at a forward PE of 22.87, not that much more expensive than Lowe's trading at a forward PE of 14.28. Considering the level of outperformance Visa has over Lowe's in terms of its operating profit margin and its near-term and long-term prospects, I would expect to have to pay more of a premium for Visa stock. The fact that I can get Visa at a slight premium over Lowe's makes this choice a little bit easier for me. And you probably already guessed it, but if I had to pick one of these two dividend stocks to buy now, it would be Visa. Visa would be my top choice for the best dividend stock to buy right now. All right, but that's all I've got for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.